Hello, and welcome to another episode of GoodCast, a podcast produced by Goodwill North Central Texas, where we take a look at success stories made possible by donations from everyday people. Today's episode is going to be super fun. I had the opportunity to speak with local thrift queen, the Diva of Curves, Texas, to discuss DIY, community, and shopping with a purpose. Let's hop into it.
Hi, my name is Doreen, also known as the Diva of Curve Texas on all of my social platforms. I am a plus-size entrepreneur. I literally have a passion for making sure that plus-size individuals are more aware about sustainable fashion, not just in the minority community, but just in general. So that is where my passion lies.
So tell me a little bit about your experience with thrifting. How long have you been doing it? What do you enjoy about the process?
Well, thrifting is just amazing in general. I began thrifting because in the 90s, I was a plus-size girl. There were not a lot of options for plus-size women or individuals. And I would always hear my grandmother talk about how my grandfather, who goes by the name Hollywood, because of his damper style, would find amazing things at the Goodwill. So I became so curious about how he was able to dress so well but affordably. So I began going to the Goodwill, and I was finding so many amazing items. They were all unique, vintage, and it just gave me the edge that I was looking for. I started doing the decor, I started doing plants, you name it, because Goodwill just offers such a wide range of items, and I've just been thrifting ever since.
Okay, I love hearing like people's origin stories for thrifting specifically, because it can vary so wildly,
Exactly.
right? Because like with me, I had a bunch of friends who were very hipster in high school, and so like we'd go to Goodwill looking for records or for like beat up old jackets, that sort of thing, just for the aesthetic of it. You can find so many cool things.
And then it was rare items. Like I would find things that were like popping with color or sequins. Just things that were hard to come by, and it really allowed me to be so creative.
So what would be like, if you had three like core rules of thrifting or for like fashion in general, what would that be?
For thrifting, the first thing that I would definitely suggest is to make a list. So go in with some type of idea, general concept. Now be fluid in that concept, but go in saying, today I'm just going to look for bottoms. We're shopping for winter. We're looking for winter bottoms. And then you just go in, and that's what you hone in on, because what happens is it can be overwhelming, especially if you are new to thrifting. You see so many great buys, and you just lose kind of sight of what you were in there for. So I typically go in with the list, and I shop off season. The next thing is pay attention to the fashion trends. I love to go in and see the Gen Zers. They are just so cool, rocking a lot of the 90s gear. So it literally lets you know, okay, this is what the new wave is, or how they call it, drip. This is the drip for this season. Right. So I also pay a lot of attention to the Goodwill fashion that I see the patrons wearing. And last but not least, this is my favorite. Be open-minded. Try on a variety of different things. Try on patterns, textures. Don't be so closed-minded to the fact that, I wear a 2X, but this is in the extra large section. Try it on, because you'll be surprised. A lot of vintage items have so much give, or, just the fabric was made with a lot more thought and forgiveness. So you could wear it. So just be very open-minded when you shop or thrift.
Okay. I like that you take a methodical approach to it. That's interesting, because I know like my approach is very kind of meandering. I'll kind of like wander from aisle to aisle, but then you also have people who like will go aisle to aisle and like meticulously scan through like each and every single item.
That's me. I literally can go through a rack in no time. And the people there, I think the staffers there enjoy it so much, because I'm very intentional about how I sort. So it's not like I leave them a mess. And I think that's something that we also have to keep in mind, is how are we leaving the store for the next person? Even though I'm a patron, it's still my duty and my responsibility to make sure that whoever's coming behind me has that same access of ease. So for me, I love that the things are color coordinated, they're sorted. You guys are so intentional about making it convenient for us to shop. So I want to leave it that way for the next customer.
I know that like the retail staff in particular, they develop these very unique bonds with customers, especially repeat customers. You mentioned you're an entrepreneur, so I'm sure you were getting across to many of our locations, but are there some that you frequent like more than others?
Oh, I'll talk about my favorite location. It's the Alta Mesa location. Just amazing staff. I know them, a lot of them by name. When I go in, they're always just so warm and friendly. What are you looking for today? What did you find? So it's just always the exchange of conversations. They're so knowledgeable and helpful. But I would be remiss if I say that was not across the board. I've been to stores in LA. I've been to stores in Miami. And literally the customer service is the biggest selling point for me, in addition to the quality of items you guys sell. But the customer service, the knowledge, that friendly smile, that is universal in Goodwill.
Okay. Let's touch on that a little bit. Because you've frequented the stores for a little bit. How much did you know about the programs and services aspect of it?
Well, to be honest, I thought it was pretty knowledgeable because I frequent with Goodwill. I volunteered with them. But what I've noticed is every time I come, I learn something different. And it really ignites in me to make sure I continue to support a company that gives back wholeheartedly the way Goodwill does. So today I learned so much, and I'm just so full, and I'm ready to share with other people, just how many programs we have locally that are just spewing back into our community.
So what would you say that community as an idea, or it's something physical? What does community mean to you?
Community means obviously the infrastructure you're around, but it also means the people that you surround yourself with. So that can be multi-level. So you have, obviously the environment that you're born and raised in, but then you also have those opportunities to step outside of it. And organizations like Goodwill, where you guys go into that community and literally bring people out, is what we need more of. And getting in those communities and saying, hey, we have resources that you guys could benefit from.
Yeah, I know we like to say that it is a hand up, not a hand out.
For sure.
Right, because you do want people to be self-sufficient, but sometimes circumstances make that near impossible. So even just a little bit of support can mean the world to people. Or
resources. We talked a lot about how a lot of the programs have resources built into them. So it's not necessarily that you're getting anything free per se, but you're getting the information. Now you can take that information and begin to help yourself.
And that's something that I've noticed with your content as well, with on your Instagram, you're tagging us and it pops up in our feed, and we see all the stuff that you are interested in, and community does seem to be a huge factor in that. You talked about, being a positive role model for, plus size fashion. Are there any other topics that really speak to you?
Well, coming from a low income Black family, it has really shaped everything that I do. I come from the nonprofit world. I speak the nonprofit language. So for me, it is more about empowering others, giving back, and also being a living example of what you can do. I don't see a lot of people that come from where I come from who make it past a high school diploma. So for me to have a master's degree and be able to show them that you can do these things. We can talk sustainability. We can talk about how to repurpose and upcycle. All of these things are not new. But what it is just giving them the opportunity to learn about these things. So that's why my content is so heavily focused on places like Goodwill, because these are places that they could reach. These are attainable goals for them to come in with $10 and be able to find a suit for an interview, or to be able to learn how to decorate your home on a budget. So these are things that I'm super passionate about. And also it helps to provide the security and sustainability for our environment. We want to protect what we have, keeping clothes and keeping, waste out of our waterways and out of our landfills. That is important.
So how can we, either as an organization, individuals, as a community, help to uplift others and promote those ideas of sustainability?
The one thing that I would love to see more of is actually repurposing. You know how the DIY videos are huge now. So I would actually like to see some people come in, even, your STARS program, you giving them just random resources and allowing them to express their creativity and repurpose those items. So some upcycling, even talking about styling different looks, how you could prepare for winter, and actually going into those Goodwill stores and preparing those items. I've seen something similar where a couple did something pretty similar to that, but just really the knowledge. Not just saying, okay, go in the store and you compare these items. No, but you actually doing the step-by-step of showing them how the process works. So I would just love to see more actual takeaway nuggets that people can go in and be equipped and prepared to use.
Okay. Yeah, because you talked about, you have a little bit of experience with DIY. What kind of projects are you getting into?
Oh, my God. My whole home, and I started to bring you a picture because I know people never believe that I get stuff from Goodwill. For my home, but right now my main project is my living room. So I have this pink sofa. It's like a blush pink, and so I'm really going for like a whimsical vibe.
Okay.
And I want almost like the greenery outside to be the focal point. So it's a lot of like baskets, a lot of weavings. So that's what my big project is right now. But I love spray paint. I go crazy with the spray paint. And Goodwill is just my happy place to go. And I'm like, oh, I can buy this, on a budget or affordable, but it still gives me that comfort and that happiness that I'm looking for, at West Elm. So I love that about Goodwill and the DIYs.
That's really cool. Do you typically, are you a solo shopper? Do you take a group?
Solo. So my eyes got big. I'm like, I think no one has the patience for me. Because like you said, I do kind of wonder, and I literally will go garment by garment by garment because I'm afraid if I don't, I'm missing something. And there have been times like this dress, I literally almost missed this dress because I was going to skip that row. And someone was like, just go back. And when I went back and found this dress, I was like, oh my God, I'm glad I went back. So no, definitely solo. I like to pace myself. And like I said, I'm very intentional when I go in. So solo for sure.
Okay. Do you ever try to get your friends or family on board with either the concept of thrifting or DIY?
Oh, they're obsessed now. My sister was the first one, so she's more of a vintage girl, so she loves vintage, but they don't have the same patience. So they're more of okay, I'm going in looking for a red shirt, I got it, bye. With me, I go in and I'm pretty much I will stay here all day until I find the red shirt I'm looking for. So that's them. My best friend is more of, she loves to shop for her son. So she has become so resourceful at making sure she finds him play clothes or uniforms. She even shops a season in advance to buy him stuff. So like I say, it's really changed our lives. And with me talking more about sustainability and being mindful of how you're reusing things at home, she's even getting more into that. So she does a lot of repurposing with her furniture, home decor, pillows and stuff. You don't have to buy brand new pillows. Look up how to sanitize them, ways that you can prevent, spills and stains, and just use those. So we have really made a 360 in my entire family as far as sustainability and making sure that we are using items that are already available.
So how does it make you feel personally to advocate for these kinds of topics? It
empowers me. It really does. But most importantly, I think it's not about me at all. It's about the people who are gaining the knowledge that they didn't think, I can afford this item or I can walk out and be confident because I don't have the means to necessarily go to a major department store. But knowing that they can go to Goodwill and find things that fit them, especially as a plus size woman, that's so important. Again, like I say, you guys are so strategic. You sort everything. I don't have to hunt for plus size. It literally says plus size. So I love that about it. So for me, it's not just about me, but it's also about other people that are coming in and other people that I'm able to service and help because of places like Goodwill.
How does that translate to your more business-sided aspects?
Well, as we kind of touched on, I am a reseller. So what reselling is I go in and I source items and then I will provide them to people who don't have the means or the access to them. So a lot of people aren't aware, I'm originally from North Carolina. In North Carolina, plus size is not as vast as it is in Texas. Okay. So you'll have people in certain communities who cannot find plus size above a 2X. with me being in Texas, the average size here is a 16. So there's a vast amount of plus size. And so with me, I've been able to use that to my advantage to provide resources to other people. So what I do try to focus on is quality. So quality is really big to me, as well as affordability. So I'm not in this to make a huge profit. That's not my goal. My goal is to make sure, because really I sell a lot to like California, New York. They don't have a huge presence of plus size clothing. I know because I was in LA and I think I went to 3 stores in LA just to find something decent. So they don't have a lot of plus size. So there's a huge need in communities like that to have quality clothing. So for me, it's about going and sourcing things that are going to work, things that are going to be good quality. They're not going to shred, but they're going to last, have longevity, and providing those to people who don't have the access or don't have the money to afford a Torrid dress or a Lane Bryant dress, because those items can really be expensive, but now they have that access to those.
Okay, that's awesome. What is the most like extravagant or intricate piece of DIY that you've ever done?
So I tend to stick to more household.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of repurposing as far as like furniture, frames. I redid my bed frame one time and just made it really like more personable. So I've done some coloring, some spray painting and so forth. But no, I admire people who really have the tenacity to kick those projects off, because it is amazing. And again, it just speaks to the whole repurposing. Like, you literally can make something completely different. Back a while ago, I did kind of play with, adding buttons and pins and so forth, but that's about as comfortable as I am with DIYing with my clothes. I also did some sewing. So again, like I said, it was so hard to find plus size clothing. I did a lot of sewing. Right. So that's another thing I do want to encourage people to do, is to also look at the fabrics and say, hey, how can I manipulate this? Even as far as like curtains. You can make an entire dress out of curtains. So looking at things just differently, going in with some different perspective. But there are some amazing designers locally who do wonders with you all.
I do really enjoy that, during the pandemic and quarantine especially. Like, we've heard from countless people. It was like, oh, I picked up such and such as a hobby. And you were like, I'm going to kick off my business.
Yes. Like, I have nothing but time here at this point. Might as well do something with it. And because I purchased so much stuff for me personally, my closet was just like crowding me. I'm like, I cannot stay in this house with this closet like this. Right. Because like I say, I shop way too much, but I love Goodwill. And I'm like, I find good stuff. So I just had to start to streamline. I've begun to do a lot more of the minimalistic living, which I never thought was possible for me because I'm just a stuff person. And so, like I say, quarantine helped me so much realize I don't need all of this stuff. And there are people who do need it. So let's help these people find the resources that they need. But I don't have to have all of this stuff. I've gotten away from plastic. Like, no more plastic in my home. So I'm really trying to, again, live the way that I talk and be that example that we can do these things and really help to protect our environment.
Kind of walk me through your emotional journey when it comes to a DIY project.
Oh my goodness. So first thing I'm going is to Pinterest. Okay. That is like my heaven. I'm going to Pinterest, or I could be inspired by something I see in a magazine. I'm one of those people who follows every home decor page on Instagram. But I want to find that in an affordable fashion. So that's what I'll kind of usually get my inspiration from. And then I go from there trying to figure out how I can achieve that look. So it could be, like I said, just a wicker basket, and I want to spray it with some type of design on it or give it some type of personality. So that's typically what I would do, is just find something that I'm inspired by or find something that I'm not completely satisfied with and try to make it more high end, because that's really what I go for. Is I want people to walk in my house and say, you know what, this looks really expensive. Girl, I paid $30 for this. And so that's usually the vibe that I go for, is to let people know, like, you can do the same thing, but on a budget.
Okay. Yeah, I know. There's something that is so, like, it's more than pride, right? When you finish a project, there's something that is so gratifying about, like, having a finished product. Even I took my table that, like, my grandma had given me, you know, this little rinky-dink, like, metal legs, plywood top. And I completely, like, redid it. I sanded it. I painted it this really nice color, put, like, a clear protector coat on it. And it's like, you know, when you're in the middle of, like, sanding it and there's sawdust or whatever, like, all around your kitchen floor, you're like, is this really worth it?
That's what I was about to say. You have to think about it. You're right. I love that you said that. Because it's like you go through so many different stages. It's like, wait a minute, is this worth it? But then when you start to actually see the vision, you're like, oh, this is totally worth it.
It's really nice. And I think a lot of people have, like, picked up those hobbies or that tendency to DIY just because, you know, if you were going to be in a space for an extended amount of time, comfort and like some sort of engagement, whether it's visual, physical, whatever, is necessary to like keep a sound state of mind.
Yes, and I think a lot of people got bored too, and they were just kind of like, because the Home Depot and all those home improvement stores were flooded. You couldn't find basic things like wood. People were really investing a lot into this space because I don't think we were used to being in our spaces so long. And so, like you said, people were really into the DIYs. I've seen some amazing things transpire off of repurposed and upcycled goods.
Do you think, because you touched on it a little bit with that, you know, you said you see a lot of Gen Z and Goodwill, that sort of thing. Do you think this younger generation has more of an appreciation for those like green efforts, or do you think it is like an unintended like side effect towards like nostalgic fashion?
I think you have a shift both. Okay. I think there's a healthy balance, to be honest. I think there are some people who are super obsessed with the fashion from the 90s, just like I was with the fashion from the 80s. But I think somewhere in that process, they develop an appreciation for it as well. You see a lot of people now who are actually reselling because they've realized, okay, there are people who really love these items. And so I think that there's definitely appreciation for them. And I also think that some people are doing it to help the environment. I've learned a lot from Gen Zers about, you know, why it is so important to do more sustainable efforts. They talk a lot about the DIY projects, and they actually do a lot of it. So they're not just talking about things, but they're walking the walk. So for me, I think that has been great. So I think there's a very healthy balance. And I think whichever category they're in, they're helping the environment because they're still keeping those items out of the landfills, and they could be going to some of the fast fashion options. But instead, they are going in. But I see a ton of them when I'm shopping. Like, a lot of them. They're usually like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, yes, get it. So I love it. I love that I see a lot of elderly people doing it as well. So like I said, it warms my heart. I know we're talking about Gen Zers, but I love to see the baby boomers too.
Right.
It just warms my heart to know that you have so many, again, walks of life, generations, races, and people that are all just in this one space for a number of different reasons.
Do you have a particular mindset or goal to make your content stand out, like as far as, you know, through its positive message or through its, you know, sheer aesthetic? Like, how do you approach your social media side of business?
I would say that I am led purely by my morals and ethics. Okay. I've tried a number of different things. My background is in, again, marketing, so I'm really hard on myself. So this has been rewarding to hear a lot of your feedback. I've struggled with, do I want to, you know, do 3x3s or 4x4s? And for those of you who aren't aware, it's like, how do you want your profile grid to look when people land on your social? And so for me, I've struggled a lot with that. And I just finally said, you know what, I'm going to do what feels right in my heart. So if I wake up today and sustainability is a topic that I want to talk about, that's what I'm going to talk about. If I wake up today and I see something in the headlines that relates to plus size individuals, that's what I want to talk about. So I don't want to really box myself in to the fact that I can't be myself. I think that's when we miss the mark, is when we're not allowing ourselves to be genuine and to be 100% transparent. Now, with that does also still come preparation. So I have usually batched content that I will already have, and I can literally just go and say, you know what, I'm feeling this today, and I'll grab one of those pieces of content, and then I'm able to curate it for that thought or that moment that I'm living in. But I just really want it to be my moral and my compass that is guiding everything that I do at this point.
I do like that you have to be, sort of conscientious to the things that are going on around you in order to, make the most impact, whether that is like, mission-based or, the more menial, like numbers stuff.
Yes.
And I think it does make a difference to like, be aware of your immediate surroundings, and also like things that are going on in our state, city,
Yes.
So that's awesome to hear.
Yes, because the numbers can get really tricky.
Right.
They have algorithms, so you can go up one month and down the next month. But what I tend to focus on is the engagement. To me, the engagement is a huge indicator of, how are people receiving your message? Because to me, I think that's the most important, is the storytelling that I'm able to do. And are people able to walk away and understand the clear message of what I was trying to convey?
Well, cool. I think that's all the questions that I have for you here today. It's been wonderful getting to, show you around our campus headquarters and record this episode with you. Is there anything that you would like to plug before we wrap up? Anything you want to promote, whether it's your business, Insta?
Of course. My name is, again, Doreen. You can find me at www.thedivaofcurvestx.com. All of my social sites are there. You can continue to follow my initiatives and stay connected with me. Be sure to join my Curvy fam if you guys want to know about what's happening next with me. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of GoodCast. I'd like to give a special thanks once again to Doreen for hanging out with us. Be sure to check out the description for links to her social channels and let us know what you thought of today's topic. I hope you all are staying cool and safe this summer, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye! You have been listening to GoodCast, a podcast produced by Goodwill North Central Texas. To stay up to date on all things Goodwill NCT, be sure to check out our social media and sign up for our newsletter. And if you have a second, we'd appreciate it if you could share the show with a friend or leave us a review on iTunes. It is the fastest way to help the show grow. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find podcasts.